Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. It's so great to see you all here in the Frangipani room. What a glorious, luxurious space this is. And really wonderful to see everybody online. Hello, everybody online. I hope that you're also enjoying a luxurious day. Good to see Raj and Joy and Bill Perkins and Aaron Davis and Phil Eskew, all these lovely people. My name is Alain Barker, and I am the current president of the Bloomington Rotary Club. March is Women's History Month, and I'm hoping that by now you've all been able, yes, thank you, yes, and that there will be another opportunity to applause in a second too. And I'm hoping that by now you've all been able to enjoy our recent focus on the amazing women leaders of our club in our history. I'd like to acknowledge and thank those women who've led as president. For those of you who are not on Facebook, I want to just make sure that we do this. Starting in 1993, there are 11 of them. Judy Talley was our first woman president in 1993. Since then, we've been led by Pat Gross, Judy Witt, who was also district governor, Glenda Murray, Yolanda Trevino, Susan Bookhout, Joy Harder, Sarah Laughlin, Leslie Green, Ashley Wesley, and Sally Gaskell. Aren't they amazing people? A special thanks also to Charlotte Zietler, who has been so significant in our club. And I invite you to all rise in celebration of these amazing women. Thank you, and applause. Yeah. Woo-hoo. Thank you. Thank you so much. Henk Hedgema is going to join me here at the podium because he has our reflection. And would you like, yep. Time. And Henk has a slightly extended reflection for us.
Thank you, meneer de voorzitter. We're going to give, we have a little, there we go. We're going to give a brief overview of a project, Education Matters, an international service project that has been running since 2013. But before I do that, I would like to introduce and reintroduce to you Anne-Marie Thompson, who is a co-founder of what used to be Giving Back to Africa and is now called Malembe Rise. And as an introduction to the description of the project, we're going to show a brief video about Malembe Rise. Thank you.
Mombasa is a beautiful town. Many people. For that, maybe good to go out of Kinshasa, out of DRC, because there are many hard situations. Who can correct those things? If everyone say Kinshasa is not good, I need to go outside, who can do something to correct this? Only us. My name is Jerry Kindom Banseka. I'm a physician, and now I'm working on education and development program with Malembe Rise. Investing in young people, so young people can be part of the learning and use the learning. Their learning is the way to keep things sustainable in their life, but not only in their life, in their families and in the community.
The Club of Leaders is this wonderful evolution from the classroom back out into the community and directly focusing on students and their relationship with their community. And you know, the truth is that the vast majority of those amazing kids today are going to stay in PASA. I mean, they're not going to be going to university. What is it that makes a difference in anybody's life? It's relationships, it's integrity, it's authenticity. And it's not going out there and digging wells and put your name on it. It's long-term willingness to walk, so kotambula malo, to walk the road with.
The impact is not only on students, but it's also in parents, in community members, in teachers. The way they see the students learning in the Club of Leaders can just inspire them to see that in the classroom. Why not to keep my students acting like in the Club of Leaders?
Is made for creative exploration, and creative exploration is what leads to higher level thinking skills. You know, the deeper kind of learning, the real learning that is authentic, and you learn it because you care.
So my hope is, with just this few light, this light can be spread out. So we have useful people, so we can say, oh Kinshasa, oh Kinshasa. So for me, there is a hope for Kinshasa, for DRC, with Malembe Rise.
We'll go to the next slide and I'll let you in. Next slide. Okay, here are some of the people, a lot of people who were involved in this project over almost 10 years of education matters. The Bloomington Rotary Club had quite a few members involved, not the entire 10 years, but usually a few years, and then some other members would be involved and so forth and so on. And I apologize in advance if a name is missing. I had to reconstruct this from an email stream. Bloomington Sunrise was involved as well, and the Washington Rotary Club was a partner in this project. Malembe Rise, formerly Giving Back to Africa, was a partner, and you see Dr. Jerry Kindomba on there, who was also in the movie. Dr. Jerry Kindomba is the Malembe Rise director in the Congo. Then from the RC Gombe, our partner Rotary Club in Kinshasa, were quite a few people over the years that were involved. And finally, the school we helped, what shall we say, improve upon, and where Anne-Marie and Dr. Jerry have been working on, the Collège des Savoirs, formerly Centre Salisa, had also some people, of course, involved in this project. Next slide, please. And I'll leave it to Anne-Marie to introduce some of the people on this slide and give you some context.
Yeah, hi, everybody. Thanks. I just got back from Kinshasa, so it was a wonderful, wonderful trip. And the Rotary Club Gombe invited us to their meeting. This group is also growing like yours, but there weren't too many people at the meeting when we were there. But the most important people are Mr. Jean Quittard, who you see there in the front row. He was instrumental in almost the whole project, 10-year project. And then Dr. Jerry Kindomba, the country director from Malembe Rise, was clearly the most important facilitator to assure the success of the Rotary Club partnership. And Mama Miriam is the one in the back, and she also has been involved in this project from since Elsa's book was published. And Miriam was actually here at the Rotary Club several years ago with me. Some of you will remember, I know that Jim and Ann will remember her well. So they all sent greetings, big, big greetings. They sent some cloth for you. So I need to talk with Alain about that. Anyway, greetings from Kinshasa.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Next slide, please. So what was this project about? Initially, when we were looking for a new project in 2013 to do with the International Service Committee, and we considered going to the Congo, we got the advice from a colleague from another club, who shall not be named, that we might as well burn our money here in Bloomington and not bother trying to do anything in a country that was so challenged and so complicated. But the Rotarians on the committee felt that precisely for that reason, because the need there was the highest, we needed to go in and help. And we had an opportunity to do so thanks to Anne-Marie, who was a member of our club at the time, and her organization Giving Back to Africa, currently Malambe Rides. And we started with a renovation of classrooms at the school in Mpasa. Mpasa is a suburb, a very poor suburb of Kinshasa. We then, in the next phase, installed a rainwater collection system at the school, library cabinets, and we fenced in a community garden. And we'll show you some images of all of that. And finally, we had a fundraiser done by a high school boy, Morgan Schurer, who walked how many miles? 500 miles on the Appalachian Trail as a fundraiser for Malambe Rides. And that inspired a former member of our club, Elsa Marston, to write a book. She is an award-winning, or was an award-winning author of children's books. And she wrote a book about that under the title, I Just Kept Walking. And she wrote a story about Morgan, that was a real story, and then placed it opposite a story of a fictitious Congo boy who was fleeing from the eastern part of the Congo, fleeing the rebellion, the war that raged there to Kinshasa. That book has been produced by the Rotary Club. It has been sold to Rotarians and others. And that book is currently 180 plus copies of it at Teachers Warehouse, where it is available for teachers to use in class. And that completes the project on the American end. Anne-Marie translated the book into French. A French copy of that book was printed in Kinshasa by the Rotary Club Gombe and distributed to children. And quite a few of you contributed to the production of that book by paying $10 extra for the English edition. So that made that possible. Okay, next slide, please. So maybe Anne-Marie, you want to say a few things about the school here and what we're seeing on the slide.
Yeah, so this is Collège des Savoirs, and when I first went there, the classrooms were in shatters, and there were 3 classrooms there on the left that you can see 3 doors. It was a mess. Children were sitting on the floor for their classes, and now here on the right is what you all did, and it made a difference. And those very benches are still there to this day. So thank you very much. Whenever there is a celebration of any kind, we always have a big festival. And so you see there on the left, on the bottom, the students are all in their uniforms and they're celebrating the finish of the renovation. And Bryce Smedley, who works for USAID and also a good friend, brought books from the US Embassy. So here is a concrete example of exactly what you have done to work with children and teachers in the Congo. That was phase 1.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. The next slide, please. Okay, so that was successful. And in consultation with Rotary Club Gombe and the Sunrise Club and the Washington Club, we decided on a second phase of the project. Anne-Marie pointed out that if there was a rain shower, children and teachers were running outside with buckets and pans to collect some of the water. And so we decided that maybe it was a good idea to install a rain collection system that would collect rainwater from the roof and store it in a cistern. In addition, we installed library cabinets. We learned that it is a bad idea to have a library room that is locked because it will stay locked and nobody will ever see the books. So by putting cabinets in the various classrooms where the books are, these books are actually being used, and we had those cabinets built and installed. And finally, the children were working on a community garden, and we put a fence around that community garden. Initially in 2015, it was pretty shabby, but then we upgraded it in 2016 to a correct fence, correct design. It's not to keep the deer out. It is to keep people out. and what else? And chickens.
And goats.
Okay. But so that project worked well. And then we launched into our third project. Next slide, please. And that's the book. I Just Kept Walking. And you will find copies at the desk with Natalie for sale. And that book is also what was translated into French. How many more minutes? 2 minutes. Very good. Elsa Marston regretfully passed away in 2017, but she did witness the printing and the distribution, the initial distribution of the book. It was her last project, and according to her son, the project she worked on with much love. She really enjoyed it during her illness to have this going. I think anything, Anne-Marie, that you want to say about it?
The French version?
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. So I must say, I think the most successful of all the things you've done is, in fact, this book, which will make a huge difference to many children. And next slide. And so here you see the Rotary Club Gombe has distributed these books now in the Congo in French, and children are reading the story that Elsa wrote. So thank you so much from the people of Congo that I know and love. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. It's so great to have you back with us, and Hank also for everything that you've done. I have to say that this international project was really one of the things that drew me to this club and really made me want to belong through the years that it went. So thank you both so much. While Liz Irwin is coming up to introduce our guests, I'll just also congratulate her because she has a birthday this week. Wednesday, tomorrow is her birthday. John Zodi, March 31st. Sandy Keller, April 1st, and Steve Mobley, April 1st. We have a lot of member anniversaries for some reason. I don't know what it was, but there are 9 member anniversaries. Jeff Tinez, 1 year. Becky Jessimer, 3 years. Bryce Bowes, 6 years. And it's going to climb, guys. Hank Walters, 6 years. Jim Bright, 16 years, Mr. Rotary. Monica Kroner, 33 years, one of the women who joined very early on. Jerry Pejak, 17 years. Christina Swanson, 34 years. And Charlotte Zietlow, 35 years.
Well, good afternoon. I want to welcome all of our guests today. We have quite a few, which might have something to do with our very popular speaker. But I want to welcome all of you today. And as I read your names off, if you'll please stand so we can all recognize you. First of all, guests of Jim Bright, I've got Shravi Sharma, Sankop Sharma, and Sandeep Sharma. Welcome. Also guest of Jim Bright, we have Ann Bright. Hi, Ann. We have a guest of Jeff Richardson, Jim Mahadi. And we've all heard from Anne-Marie Thompson, who is here today as a guest of Hank Heichema, but she is also a former member of the club. Welcome back again, Anne-Marie. We have Cheryl Barnes, guest of Ron Barnes. Hi, Cheryl. Jane Montraga, a guest of Sarah Laughlin. And Wilson Chitande, a guest of our own president, Elaine Barker. And if you like what you see today here at Rotary, we hope that you will consider becoming a member, and you can talk with your host or any of our board members about Rotary. We'd love to tell you more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz, and thank you for being our greeter as well today. Any guests online?
No guests, Alon, just happy
Okay.
Rotarians.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to jump over the things that I normally do. You will get your club updates in the mail and email, not in the snail mail, email. And thank you to everybody who is so supportive of this club and made this meeting possible. But I want to jump forward now and introduce one of the absolute jewels of Bloomington. Someone who over the years has become part of what makes our city such a spectacular place to live and thrive in. Two-time Grammy Award-winning soprano Sylvia McNair, and I'm proud to say Jacobs School of Music alumna, on her way to fame as a world-renowned soprano in 1982, she won the country's most prestigious competition for singers, the National Metropolitan Opera Auditions. She then went on to thrill audiences for 3.5 decades as one of the most sought-after artists in the most prestigious opera houses and orchestra halls across Europe and North America. Sylvia McNair has made more than 70 recordings, which, by the way, is more than the Beatles. Among her fondest memories, Sylvia sang a recital at the Supreme Court in 1999, which is the year I got married. Wow. By a special invitation from Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, and she got to sing with the Vienna Philharmonic at the Vatican for Pope John Paul II's birthday in 2000. In addition to her Grammys, she won 2 regional Emmys. Upon her move back to Bloomington, Sylvia taught on the Jacobs School of Music faculty for a decade, and returning to her public radio roots, now hosts the wonderful classical music program on WFIU called Sylvia and Friends. Please help me by extending a warm rotary welcome to my dear friend, the sublime artist and community treasure, Sylvia McNair.
Chante, chante fort ce chant de liberté, chante, chante fort pour la liberté. Chante, chante fort ce chant de liberté, chante, chante fort pour la liberté. Chante pour la liberté, chante pour la liberté, chante pour la paix pour tout le monde. Chante pour la paix pour tout le monde. Imbeni wote un sauti moja. Amani, 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 umoja. Amani, 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 umoja. Chante, chante fort ce chant de liberté. Chante, chante fort pour la liberté. Chante, chante fort ce chant de liberté. Chante, chante fort pour la liberté. Chante pour la liberté. Chante pour la liberté. Chante pour la paix pour tout le monde. Chante pour la paix pour tout le monde. Imbeni wote un sauti moja. Amani, 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 umoja. Amani, 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 umoja. Chante, chante fort ce chant de liberté. Chante, chante fort pour la liberté. Hi, everyone. My name is Sylvia McNair. Thank you for having me today. I'm here because my beloved friend Alain Barker has asked me to do the thing I hate to do more than anything in the world, which is talk about myself. Ugh, you owe me. That song is called Amani, and I have Henry Leck to thank for it, who introduced that song to me with the Indianapolis Children's Choir about 15 years ago or something, a long time ago. It's in French and Swahili. There are people in this room who understand both languages. The words mean sing loudly for liberty, sing loudly for peace in the whole world. Amani, Amani, Amani. Peace, peace, peace. So I know I have a hard stop in about 20 minutes. I've been warned. So we're going to go through this very quickly. I landed on the title, Perspective is Everything, for this presentation because, well, it is. And in all my years of running around the world, I have gained some wonderful gifts as perspectives on my life. Looking backwards, as we tend to do at a certain age, I divide my life into 3 chapters, really. Chapter 1, age 0 to 25. Chapter 2, age 25 to 60. And chapter 3, age 60 until whatever I am given. And there are things about each of these chapters that are very important. I'll just begin with chapter 1, which is really short. I was born rounding third. If I can't make it to home plate, then that's on me. What do I mean by that? I was born rounding third. I was born in the middle of the 20th century, in the middle of the United States of America with beige skin. I was born to parents who cared about education, and particularly music education. My parents were very much middle-class working people. My father worked in a factory and my mother taught school. But they made sure that they spent the few extra dollars they had on getting me music lessons. That is an awful lot of advantage to start out with. I began taking piano lessons when I was 3, violin lessons when I was 7. I played both instruments all the way through graduate school. Well, I still play both of those instruments. But in college, I decided to take some singing lessons, and I realized that singing was bringing me a great deal of joy. So I came to the Indiana University School of Music to get a master's degree. I got bit by the opera bug here. And as Alain already mentioned, in 1982, I managed to win the National Metropolitan Opera auditions. And from that point, I took a flying leap off the edge of the cliff, hoping the net would appear and I wouldn't fall to the bottom and break every bone in my body. And that, my friends, is the end of chapter 1. I'm already 25. How about that? And I've got a lot of pictures for chapters 2 and 3. Also, when I was 25, I was an apprentice at the San Francisco Opera. I made my first recording with the legendary conductor Robert Shaw, which got nominated for a Grammy, which is amazing stuff when you're 25 years old. And I actually started to think maybe this dream of making my living as a singer was possible. So I, at that point, started doing what we all do when we're self-employed. You do one job as well as you can, hoping it leads to another job. And if you do really well at that one, maybe it will lead to just one more. There were some thin months and years in the beginning, believe me, months I could barely pay the rent. But I was a self-employed person living on the 1099 income train. And things turned out okay for me because also, as Alain mentioned, the next 35 years, I ran around the world traveling almost always by myself, singing opera, symphony orchestra concerts, classical art song recitals. In the last 15 years, I did a lot of musical theater productions, cabaret engagements, pops concerts, and some jazz projects. So I thought, while you're finishing up your lunch, I'll show you some of the costumes I got to wear over the years. This was my Metropolitan Opera debut, the role of Marcellina in Beethoven's only opera, Fidelio. This is the Marriage of Figaro at the Salzburg Festival, Mozart's hometown, so it was always great fun to sing there. That's me on the left. I used to have brown hair, and this is the Countess. We were up to some shenanigans with the boys. And of course, because the girls were always the smartest people in the room, we succeeded. More pictures from the Marriage of Figaro at the Salzburg Festival, the oh so adorable Ferruccio Furlanetto singing Figaro. This is the Midsummer Night's Dream, Shakespeare Midsummer Night's Dream at the San Francisco Opera. Oh, just in case you think it was all glamour, this costume rendering was done by a famous artist who was hired to design the costumes for an opera called The Rake's progress. I sang the role of Anne Truelove, and she really is the embodiment of pure love. But the costume designer didn't see it that way. So he designed this lovely number, which I declined to wear. Would anybody have remembered anything about that performance if I'd been running around the stage wearing that? Oh, the Coronation of Poppeo, one of my favorite operas. It's an Italian Baroque opera that was also at the Salzburg Festival. Oh, this is from a dream play, a Swedish opera. This is at the Santa Fe Opera. In this production, the baritone and I were lovers, and we had to roll around on the stage together, and he's a very large man, so it was not entirely comfortable. This was the last role I did at the Metropolitan Opera. This is Cleopatra in Julius Caesar, Handel's opera Julius Caesar. I wore 6 different dresses in that production, and I'm told that each dress, each of the 6, had a costume budget of $25,000. Here are a few more pictures of Cleopatra at the Metropolitan Opera. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, she was Cleopatra. She would have some good frocks, I suppose. There's taking a bow in front of the big gold curtain at the Met. Oh, and then I started to do musical theater productions. This is Broadway legend George Hearn. We were doing The Most Happy Fella in Chicago. I love, this was a dream time for me. There we are again. Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, and this is A Little Night Music. I sort of feel like I was born to sing the role of Desiree. This is my friend Robert Orth. Yeah, having guys fight over you. That's, oh, and you know the famous song Send in the Clowns from Act 2 of A Little Night Music. That's Send in the Clowns. I don't even remember the name of this opera because I played a cameo part. I got to do a walk on, and it was a hoot. I had a great time. Ah! Let's see what's next. Oh, yeah, in about 2003, I started doing a lot of cabaret engagements, especially in New York, and San Francisco did one in Chicago as well. And I always made sure to play my violin. It was a big shock after singing for an hour. I'd pull out the violin, and I would play the Orange Blossom Special and The Devil Went Down to Georgia. Always. Those violin pieces always got a bigger shout than the singing. Now, what does that tell you? Oh, yeah, this was an opera that we did in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. It was music by Kurt Weill. The subject matter of this piece was about homelessness, prostitution, drug abuse. It was a very, very difficult thing for the audience, but an important message. At the end of the piece, she dies in a bus station having shot up with drugs. So the audience had a hard time with it, but still I'm very proud of the work we did on that. And then of course in the year 2000, as Alain mentioned, the Austrian embassy wanted to give a birthday gift to Pope John Paul II. So they sent the Vienna Philharmonic to play a concert at the Vatican. The Vienna Philharmonic chose to do the Bach B minor Mass. I was the soprano soloist for that. That's Riccardo Muti, Maestro Muti in the middle. He's music director of the Chicago Symphony, for those of you in the music world. And that's me on the left, still with brown hair, and the wonderful Pope John Paul II on the right. So that was chapter 2 of my life, 35 years. And if I think of chapter 1 of my life as learn, 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 I think of chapter 2 of my life as work, work, work. It was joyful work, much of it, but it was hard work. And honestly, I'm very relieved to be a retired person at this point in my life. We have another file. I think of some photos. Oh yes, I should mention, as Alain already did, in 2006, I was recruited to join the faculty of the Jacobs School of Music. I taught there for 10 years. I survived 20 semesters somehow. And as all of you who teach know, I learned much more from my students than they learned from me. Like Mrs. Anna in The King and I says, by my students, I am taught. I made relationships with students at the Jacobs School of Music, which I will have the rest of my life. I'm still in touch with so many of them. But I did retire from Jacobs in 2016. Before I retired, I actually joined the board of the Refugee Support Network here in Bloomington. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Right after I retired, I went to Vital, volunteers in tutoring adult learners. I see some heads. I know you must know about it. It's at the Monroe County Public Library. I got trained and certified to teach English as a new language, formerly known as ESL, and adult literacy, which I've done both in one-on-one situations and in classrooms and on Zoom. Hard. I love the teaching with Vital, and if we can always use more volunteers. So if you think you might be inclined to help some of our international neighbors learn to speak English with a little bit more confidence and humor, please do come and join us at Vital. I also volunteer with the Area 10 Agency on Aging's mobile food pantry. And in that role, we heave and hoe and lift and push and shove and load grocery bags and deliver them to seniors in our community who are suffering food insecurity. Physically speaking, that's probably the hardest job I do as a volunteer because it is very, very physical. When I'm able, I also go to Fairview Elementary to work with the Violin Project, one of the Jacob School of Music's finest endeavors at Fairview Elementary, first graders learning to play the violin. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But what I really want to share with you today is my work with the Refugee Support Network, and it's this work that has showered me with blessings. If the first 2 chapters of my book are being showered with an avalanche of luck, and they certainly were, Chapter 3 of my life, my retirement career, which is volunteer work, is showering me with blessings. In March of 2020, remember March of 2020, remember March 13th of 2020 when the world shut down? Well, 2 days before that, on March 11th, I was at a Refugee Support Network board meeting, and there was a beautiful young woman sitting in the corner, and somebody said, you know, that's Noor. And I thought, well, I've been supporting her financially for a while. I need to meet this beautiful woman. Well, I met Noor that night and her 2-year-old son. They are Uyghur. I'm sure you know about the Uyghurs from the region in China called Xinjiang, Northwest China. They are Muslim. And because they are Muslim, the Chinese government, of course, is trying to convince the world that they're terrorists. So they are running as quickly as they can so that they can avoid being put in forced labor camps or worse, genocide. Noor and her son got out and lived in the United States for 2.5 years before her husband and their daughter were able to join them. But these are just some pictures. Oh, we got Danny, that's his first Indiana t-shirt I got for him. Oh, and that I bought him his first Halloween costume. He's up into Spider-Man, you can see. And of course, we had our first Thanksgiving of COVID. We had to sit 20 feet apart, masked. But I tried as best I could to show Noor and her son that we loved them, we were welcoming them in our community, and we would do anything we could to support them. Here we are sitting literally sat 20 feet apart that day. Oh, and we got Danny a bike for his 3rd birthday. And this is Mother's Day with Noor and her son, Danny. And then in October of 2021, I had the great good fortune of driving to O'Hare Airport. And after a long, long wait, 2.5 years for Noor and 4 hours at O'Hare Airport for us, the doors opened. Her husband and her daughter came through, and it was an incredible moment. I was the photographer. There they are. This beautiful young family. The children were in shock. I'm not going to lie. They didn't quite know what. We spent a few days in Chicago having fun around. Yeah, this is our first Thanksgiving after we all got vaccines. And we had it at their house that year. Oh, Christmas tree, of course. And this is a photo that was taken last fall, I think. And that's, of course, my favorite picture. Don't ever try to potty train without an umbrella handy. So I am not a legal expert. I can't really help with all the many, many issues of immigration law. But what I do with the Refugee Support Network is to provide friendship, family replacement in as much as I'm able to do that. I have essentially adopted this family, although their parents are still alive in China, but short of a miracle, they will never be reunited except through a screen. And I do my best to be a friend and to step in any way I can to help this family. Okay, now we're going to talk about one more group of folks. Last August, I got a call from Pete Lenson, who is the director. We doing okay, Alain? I got a call from Pete Lenson, who is the director of the Refugee Support Network, and he said, would you please go up to Indianapolis and pick up a young Afghan woman who has had a harrowing 3-day journey through Pakistan, through Rome, through New York, and finally to Indianapolis. This is literally the very first minute that I knew Mina. She is an amazing woman. She was 25 years old in that photograph. And as soon as we got her settled in Bloomington, I started taking her out to dinner every Saturday night. This happens to be at the Afghan restaurant, which she had some reviews on the food, but pretty soon Mina introduced me to Nahid. And Nahid is also from Afghanistan. Let me just say that these are highly educated, extremely successful professional women. And they were in Afghanistan when the Taliban took over, and that was clearly not going to go well. They had to run for their lives. Nahid on the left is currently getting a PhD at the School of Education at Indiana University, and Mina is in the Kelley School of Business getting a master's in information systems. I don't even know what that means. Our group continued to grow as we made our international restaurants tour of Bloomington. This is beautiful Mina when she took a little weekend trip. There she is in her traditional Afghan dress. Okay, then our group grew again, and we started to include Nargis, another Afghan woman, was a professional woman in Kabul. She worked for the government, for the Afghan government. She had a beautiful car, a beautiful apartment. And of course, these women had to make a decision. They didn't have weeks and months to make this decision. They had hours. A few of them had days. And then it became clear that they weren't even going to be able to leave the country with a suitcase. They had to leave with what they could carry in a backpack. I can barely go away for the weekend in a suitcase. And they had to pick up their lives and leave behind their families, their friends, their careers, in the hopes of getting to America and having a better life. Here we are doing chopsticks practice. My work here is done. I've taught them to eat with chopsticks. Yes, of course, it's a moment of great comedy. There we all are. How lucky am I? Oh, and we had a Zumba class. Yep. Oh, more Zumba. And I had to introduce them to Indiana women's basketball, which is my happy place. Indiana women's basketball, the best part of Bloomington. Mina is really not 18 feet tall. She's just because she's standing on a bleacher. They were very impressed, by the way, with the IU women's basketball team. Last Thanksgiving, I decided to have all of my international family from the Refugee Support Network. I had 4 Uyghurs, 4 Afghans at my Thanksgiving table, and I can tell you it was the best Thanksgiving of my life. Again, so covered in blessings. There are 3 of the girls. Aren't they lovely? Lovely, lovely. These are the faces of refugees, my friends. And this country, America, would be so lucky to have them as citizens. Here we are. Oh, that's my sweet little Pearl on my lap there. She's the true love of my life. Oh, more women's basketball. And this was the end of the first semester. They survived their first semesters at IU. So we went out and somebody wanted to try margaritas, and they're Muslim. I mean, don't blame me. I'm just taking orders from them. Here's a birthday lunch, Afghan style. Aren't they beautiful? I have only shown these pictures and used their names with their permissions, by the way, because it can be a problem with the Taliban now. More chopsticks practice. Oh, they do so well now, but see the intent. They're really working on those chopsticks. Beautiful, beautiful girl. Oh, and of course we have shopping days and go out and buy lots of new clothes and have fun, followed by pizza, of course. And then just a few weeks ago, the beginning of February, I got to drive Nahid to Chicago for her USCIS interview. Unless you think these interviews are simple, think again. Hers lasted almost 4 hours, and she was being grilled by attorneys and judges and all kinds of people, and she survived. So now the waiting begins. Will she be allowed to stay in this country? By the way, during the chaos in Kabul in 2021, she and her husband got separated. He is now in Brussels. He's in Belgium, having terrible problems leaving Brussels to get to America. And another little story about Nahid. Her two sisters and her mother were at the Kabul airport when that bomb explosion went off, and they immediately closed the gates to the airport. Nahid and her sister were inside the gate, ready to board the plane. Another sister and her mother were outside the gate. And just like that, one bomb explosion, gates came crashing closed. And they are probably going to be separated for the rest of their lives. One of these beautiful, beautiful women said to me a couple of years ago, I can't even cry because if I start to cry, I'll never be able to stop. And that has stuck with me. We are so blessed and so lucky in this world. There we are in front of the bean, of course. Oh, I think I missed one. It's okay. Christmas, that's Chicago. International Women's Day, March 8th. Not such a big thing in this country, but in other countries in the world, this is a very important holiday. This is a gathering of a lot of Afghan women, many of whom the Refugee Support Network helps in Bloomington. There it is, yeah. And then this is just last Tuesday. We were out celebrating Nowruz, N-O-W-R-U-Z. It's the coming on of spring. And of course, they are now all celebrating Ramadan. So we had a great, big, wonderful Greek meal that night. Oh, yes, we've added one more to our gaggle of girls. This is Nida in the back. She's also getting a master's degree at Indiana University. But this, my friends, this is the great blessing of my life, my work with the Refugee Support Network. We always need more volunteers. If you think you might be interested in helping us welcome international people to our community. I will just say in closing that the perspectives I've been given on my life, like I said, chapter 1, learn as much as you can. Chapter 2, work as best you possibly can. And chapter 3, serve. Serve people who weren't born rounding third. I find myself gobsmacked with wonder and with gratitude. Asante sana. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Sylvia. I'm going to invite Sally to come up. So before we go to questions, I have something to announce. Or Sally actually is going to make the announcement. So go ahead.
Thank you, Milan. As most of you in the room know, Rotary recognizes individuals throughout the world as Paul Harris Fellows, named after our founder, Paul Harris. This is Rotary's way of recognizing contributions to Rotary Foundation and allowing local clubs to recognize community members, non-Rotarians, for their life's work in doing good in the world. Today, our club recognizes the work of Sylvia McNair, who is living a life of service above self. We congratulate you, Sylvia, and thank you for your commitment to Rotary's common goals of world understanding and peace. Please all rise in recognition of our newest Paul Harris Fellow, Sylvia McNair.
Thank you, thank you, Sally, so much, and thank you, everybody, and especially thank you, Sylvia. What a joy to have you with us today. Well, let's see. We've got 6 minutes. So isn't that absolutely amazing? Yeah. So come back on stage, and we'll have a few Q&As. So if anybody would like to ask a question of Sylvia, you're very welcome to grab the microphone, and she can stand here at the podium. And if anybody online would like to start as well.
Yes, I'm Raj.
There's my neighbor, Raj Hadawi. Hey, Raj.
Well, so good to see you.
And it's very good to see
I
you.
am so impressed with your representation and your kindness of your heart, your empathy with people, and you extending the hand to everybody who is in need. So for that, thank you so very much.
Thank
I
you,
don't have
Raj.
a question related to your presentation, but give me an update on that tree in front of your door.
Was that the question?
That's the only question I have. Is the
Oh,
tree
you didn't-
still growing?
Let me just respond, if I may, Raj, to you that for 35 years, I worked hard and did some very memorable things, but I really do feel like the work I'm doing now is the best and the most important work I've ever done. And I am the one who is blessed by it, believe me.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Was it difficult to make a choice as to where to retire?
Well, not at all, because I was on the faculty for 10 years, on the Jacobs School of Music faculty for 10 years. And to be honest, when I retired, there were other options on the table, but none was as compelling as just staying in Bloomington and being a part of this wonderful community. We're a small community with a ginormous heart, I say so often. And I had already joined the board of the Refugee Support Network and was getting trained at Vital. I didn't know what was in front of me, but no, I'm not sure I'll stay here for the rest of my life, if you want to know the truth of it, but I'm getting pretty tired of winter. Alain just said, go to Cape Town, go to Cape Town. Yes.
Sylvia, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your spiritual journey. I know that you went to the same college I went to, and I was in that orchestra before you were playing the violin, never as well. I know you helped so much with Shalom Center in the First Methodist Church, and I recently interviewed you for the Unitarian Universalist Church. Could you share about your spiritual journey some?
How many hours do we have? Phil Amerson is in the back of the room too. So now I have to, how do I answer this in a brief way? Because you all need to run off and do leave to go back to your lives. So I was raised in a very conservative evangelical household. It was tough going, never feeling worthy of anything. Phil knows a little bit about that. I went to Wheaton College as an undergrad, and that's, I think, the college you're referring to. It was a good experience. I got a great training in music theory in particular because, and I know that because I came to Indiana University School of Music and managed to validate all of the graduate level music theory courses, which meant I had great training at Wheaton College. Let's see, the first church I affiliated myself with would have been the Methodist Church because I sang here at the First United Methodist Church in Bloomington in the choir. That was a very happy time in my life at the church. I attended Fifth Avenue Presbyterian when I lived in New York for all those years. I lived in the East Coast for over 25 years. Fifth Avenue Presbyterian, if you know anything about it, is quite an amazing place. And now I am a member at the Unitarian Universalist Church here in Bloomington. And I mean, I should write a book about the journey. I can't answer that any. I think, let's see, shortly, I would just say that as my worldview expands, as my heart opens to so many possibilities, I think that the best thing we can all say to each other is namaste. The divine light in me sees and honors the divine light in all of you. No matter your religion, your race, your gender identity, your sexual orientation, the divine light in me sees and honors the divine light in you.
Thanks very much. Yeah, well, that's great. Thank you, Sylvia. And your light shines bright, that's for sure. Yes. And she wanted to remind you and me that there are CDs out there, Sylvia McNair CD, free CDs, and she's even willing to sign them for $150 each. No, for nothing. No, she's willing to sign them for nothing. So by all means, please, everybody, take advantage of this. Next week, we'll be meeting in the Georgian room, back on Zoom as well. Katie Pilachowski, hopefully that's how we pronounce her name. She's an IU astronomy professor and department chair. Her talk is entitled Eclipse Mania. I thought, Sylvia, you might like to come back for that one too. Preparing for darkness, which might be interesting. With that, let's share the 4-way+1 test. So if you will stand, please join me in saying, of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, is it fun? Thank you all so much. Thank you. We'll see you next week.